Hello everyone, my name is Ehsan. I'm AEC Technical Specialist with Keller Pacific and welcome to today's webinar. Today's webinar is Revit Project Team Collaboration and how Autodesk solutions can help building design teams overcome communication and collaboration challenges that they face when working together. We'll just go ahead with a brief intro just to set up the stage. So the reason running this webinar is we hear a lot of customers and folks in the industry about what keeps them up at night, and a lot of time it comes back to collaboration. One challenge we heard a lot about is how to make sure everyone on a project is using the correct and latest version of a design file, and we can talk about how to get everyone working on the same model, how you can be in the same model as your team, and how have everyone on the latest version of the model. Second challenge is around managing project timeline, and we're going to address how a cloud-enabled collaboration solution can streamline processes and save time by freeing your team to communicate routine updates more quickly and even to resolve clashes and designs in real time. And finally, challenge number 3 is that we hear a lot is about systems and tools that use for communication and collaboration, which can add complexity and cost rather than help. So we're going to talk about how to liberate yourself from IT complexity and cost by using a shared workspace in the cloud. And with that, so we're going to have a quick agenda over here. If you're obviously looking at the title, you saw that our focus today is really around collaboration for Revit and BIM 360 team. But I'm going to start out by kind of reinforcing the key values to collaboration for Revit, or C4R as we kind of informally nicknamed that for short. But what I think happened is that because collaboration for Revit has been such a hot topic, the platform that runs on top of it, BIM 360 team, sometimes gets overlooked. So we're going to talk about BIM 360 team a lot today. I'll be showing some of that in the demo, and then because this is such a popular conversation, I'll try to address some of the common questions that come up. You can use the chat panel to write any of your questions to us, and we will try to address them for you. All right, so with that, let's jump in. I'm kind of flipping the table today. Normally I would explain the BIM 360 platform and then collaboration for Revit that runs on it. But today I want to spend some time on BIM 360 team as well. So let's talk about collaboration for Revit first. All right, let's jump in. Now, the reason folks are interested in collaboration for Revit, and the reason you should be interested if you use Revit, is because it's something we have never been able to do before. We've been able to use tools like Revit Server with enough IT expertise and investment to enable collaboration across a firm that has multiple offices, but even that solution doesn't really address the problem of going outside your domain and working with multiple firms, so then you have additional hoops to jump through and so on. With collaboration for Revit, what collaboration for Revit does as a kind of baseline key feature is allows us to just log in from anywhere, from Starbucks, and be able to work on a connected Revit model, and it's not a big deal. And the fact that it's not a big deal and I don't need a great internet connection to do is stunning. That's a game changer. And so the multi-location and multi-location concurrent authoring feature is probably number 1 when it comes to collaboration for Revit. The way it actually does is through some intelligent data caching, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about that today, of course, but the reality is that in the case of collaboration for Revit, the model living in the cloud, they're living on BIM 360 team, and we're prefetching all of those little changes that everybody is doing on their models. What that means is if I'm moving a door in my model, then all the people I'm working with are getting a little bit of information sent over to their computers that says, hey, I moved the door, and then when I sync it and tells their machines he synced, so that change is going to be committed. And then when they happen to sync, whenever they do, actually, they're actually syncing locally. They're not having it over the cloud or be at the mercy of the speed of the internet to do so. As a result, you don't even need to have a great connection to make this work. There's a lot of magic happening behind the scene to make this happen, in fact. And then the second value is it's also a zero IT setup solution, and you can put an asterisk on that and say that you need to run the latest version of Revit, so somebody's got to install that, and they have to install the Collaboration for Revit add-on, which in fact starting 2017 it installs with Revit and any updates by itself, and whoever has access to manage your account as a contract manager has to go into the account portal and provision you for Collaboration for Revit. But nobody walks over to the server closet like ever. That's just not relevant to this situation, because the BIM 360 platform is taking the risk on our risk, on keeping the model, and this is a big deal, especially for small to mid-size firms that would not have that kind of IT expertise in-house typically. The next key value is integrated communications. Collaboration for Revit comes with an integrated communicator chat tool. Communicator kind of solves the problem of Revit, of a feature that Revit didn't really do before, which was what's going on inside the Revit project directly within Revit. We had the work sharing monitor utility, of course, and then Project Blue Strike for a while, but this allows us to directly communicate Revit user to Revit user. Not email something separate, not an external chat mechanism, but something that actually is aware of what's going on in Revit experience. You can actually take a screenshot directly from Revit model while in the communicator tool, upload attachments to share with Revit user to Revit user, and it's a permanent record. It's something you can go back and see, why were these design decisions made at that time. So that's a piece that comes with Collaboration for Revit. And there's a few other little things, but really the bottom line is we have this big switch we flipped on that allows you to just work on your Revit model in a connected experience, whether it's from home, from the job site, from the client's office, from the coffee shop, or just anywhere in the world. So that's really a significant set of functionalities that we offer. And the thing is, Collaboration for Revit is not an island. It runs on top of BIM 360 team, and in fact, I'll be reinforcing this more later, but in fact, you will have a lot of project participants who are BIM 360 team users, not necessarily Collaboration for Revit users. Those could be, for example, consultants not using Revit at all or not using Collaboration for Revit, of course. It could be the civil engineer using Civil 3D or another solution. It could be a client that you want to have involved in the communication process. And I really want to show you some of the things in BIM 360 team that I think make the client relationship change completely. So you have this group of people that are using BIM 360 team, and in fact Collaboration for Revit as a back-end mechanism. As I said before, it's running on top of BIM 360 team. So where we're going shift our focus for the rest of talk today, why BIM 360 team? So let's talk about why BIM 360 team matters. What is it? What is this platform? We're hearing about what's the rebrand. It was recently rebranded from A360 team to BIM 360 team. So if you're familiar with at all with RS work in the construction space, and I would say it's preliminary in the construction space, they've been working on acquiring and building and combining sets of tools for 5+ years now that are called BIM 360. That includes tools that we've had for a long time, like BIM 360 Glue and Field, that had former lives before Iris acquired them, as well as things that we've built from ground up, like docs and building ops and so on. But I would say that this platform experience is a little misleading because in my mind, BIM includes everything from design all the way through construction. And really, I would say BIM 360 was heavy on pre-construction and beyond until recently. So what we had a need for was a set of design-focused tools, and it all comes to BIM 360 team to fill the gap. And I'll talk more about how BIM 360 team came to be in just a few minutes, but BIM 360 team gives us what I consider to be the entry point. As we came into this process, because really it's where we come while we're still figuring out things. You know, things like glue tools like glue are great when we get to real coordination, when our models have some real substance. Docs is great when we're at a point where documentation is relevant, matters, and you know, we need to kind of mark things up and track things among the documentation. But until that point, we need something that we're really actually figuring out what the design is. That's where BIM 360 team is really strong, and it's strong because it understands the project data. So long story short, you know, we started out with RS 360 years ago. Most of you probably have touched that at some point. RS 360 was kind of the Facebook of file sharing with RS, you know, a cloud-born solution, but very basic in terms of, you know, it's a file storage site that happened to have a better viewer than some of the generic file storage sites out there. A little bit of integration with some of the RS applications like AutoCAD that evolved into a 360 drive, which we had today, and a 360 team came along. A 360 team was the first time that we had a cloud-born project-centric solution, something that actually structured all the data around the project and participants around the project. That started to make sense in terms of what we need as AEC professionals, except that a 360 team didn't just serve AEC, it served all of our users. And you know, RS has a lot of folks, for example, in manufacturing space. So the recent rebrand is what it really was, but the rebrand and then restructuring of a 360 team and BIM 360 team, a 360 team into BIM 360 team and Fusion team. So Fusion team is for the manufacturing side, allows us to actually structure the product for the specific audience. And so BIM 360 team now belongs in the BIM 360 platform. The data was always living in the same place anyway, so BIM 360 product, so it kind of makes sense to have a package there. But also we start to see features come online that are AEC specific, and I look at the, like a version comparison and so on in a little bit. That makes a lot of sense in tracking, you know, changes by AEC discipline and things that wouldn't be relevant if we were still having a broad A360 team that kind of serves everybody's approach. So BIM 360 team understands the project data, and specifically in AEC space allows us to, of course, do the file sharing and the file storage that we've had before, but really has a smart viewer. We'll talk more about that, and deep search capabilities. Let's us look at the intelligent properties of that Revit model, for example, but over 100 file formats, really. So it's not at all limited only to Revit. In fact, that's part of the point, right? This does this for so much more. So it's project-centric design, and it understands the design data as you see on the left side of the slide. But the fact that we can do live review where we have multiple people just kind of connected in and playing around in the same model, and we don't have to necessarily drive over the same office, or set up a complicated web type of meeting solution to make it work, and then be awkward because it's the speed of the Revit or something, as we're trying to spin around and adjust the model. But rather have a fluidity of the BIM 360 team interface, or whether it's the fact that viewer supports so many different file types, or the fact that I can do this intelligent version comparison. As I mentioned before, there is a lot more to this than what I get with a basic cloud storage solution. And don't get me wrong, Box, Dropbox, Google Drive, and OneDrive, I use all of those things. That they are all very good at their one thing that they do. But unless you're just like looking at a Word document and wanting to edit a few things, and that, they're not going to understand what a project is and how to structure a model and how to conduct reviews and track markups and comments and all of the things that we get here in BIM 360 team. I want to reinforce the in any format part. I mean, over 100 file format, that's a large number. Okay, there's a list you find on RS Knowledge Network, but that's a lot of RS formats. Most of them, in fact, and then a huge number of third-party file formats. And so it's great to just have a viewer that doesn't care. It doesn't require to be a PDF or an IFC file or something like that. Just bring in the data and it'll be viewed, and in fact it's intelligent data that that has deeper properties. Those are available to be seen in most cases too, and it happens to be on any device. I mean, think about for just a second how absurd the idea of spinning a 2 GB Revit model around in a browser or an iPad would have been just a few years ago, right? And now that's completely possible. So the large model viewer embedded into BIM 360 team and other BIM 360 tools is very powerful and lets you have this as at your fingerprints. So with that, I think I'm gonna jump into collaboration for Revit demo and then BIM 360 team and just show some of these features, a little bit of walk through the interface, as well as a couple of more high-level features that are available to us today. Okay, so the collaboration for Revit demo. All right. Okay, so what we're gonna show up over here today is I'm gonna demo a small medical center project. It's consisted of architectural model, structural model, and mechanical model. So there are gonna be 3 Revit models on the cloud from 3 different disciplines. And then the team that we're gonna demo on this project is we have the 3 person from the architects team. We have Hans. He's the principal architect. He's not a Revit user. He only, he's always on the go, on the train, on a plane, and he doesn't need to open Revit to look at the model. And Greg and Paul are the architects working inside the office. Mindy is a structural engineer from another firm around another corner of the city, and Paula is the MEP engineer from another town or another location. So right now we're showing the Craig's view, the first architect working on the model. So you see the chat communicator on the side. He needs to modify the wall adjustments to kind of adjust the area space of a couple of rooms. So he's using the chat communicator to send a note to the team that, hey, I'm working on this area. So then he's going to try to change changes that he wants to do. All right, so as soon as he tries to move the walls, he receives an error message that, those objects are under ownership of someone else that happens to be Paul, his colleague. So he sends a request to Paul to grant him permission to move those changes. And he also sends a chat notification to him, hey, can you please give me notification, grant permission. Now let's switch to Paul's side. So Paul actually sees Greg's chat message through the communicator, and he is going to check his requests, and then he see Greg's request, and he grants the request to him. And he will send a note to him, hey, I granted your request. So let's get back to Greg. And he see a notification that editing request granted in the Revit interface. So he goes ahead and changes the walls, commits the changes, and then he syncs to the model to the central, and the central happens to be on the cloud. He puts a comment about what he changed, and he also take a screenshot of the area that he changed to send in the chat communicator to the whole team so they know what's going on. All right, now let's switch to the structural engineer side. So Mindy, who works in another firm, but she has her own Revit structure model, but architect model is linked into her model. And then he reviews the changes and let the Greg know that, hey, I'm going to see if I need to make any changes. And she's checking the project timeline and see that the sync was completed. So she's going ahead and reload the architect model, which lives on the cloud, to her model. She also takes a look at the screenshot and see, yeah, she needs to move some columns and beams to make the model coordinated with the architect's model. So she's moving the grid line. Then she's going to have to adjust a couple of beams here and there, checking the model in the 3D view, making sure everything looks good. And then she's going to commit the change and sync her model to the central, and also put a comment about what she changed. And as you see in the project timeline, it's showing who synced at what time, and also shows the comments about what they did actually before syncing. Now let's see what's the effect on the MEP engineer, Paula. So she also has her own model, but of course she has linked architect models to her model as a background. So she's letting, communicating with the team, let me know when you're done so I can do my changes. And then she's letting the architect know that she's going to, make changes after the sync. So she's opening the links and actually reloading both the architect and the structural engineer links into her model, so she sees the latest changes. She's checking the model. She probably need to modify a few objects to accommodate the new room size, and she will also check to see if any MEP dock systems needs to be relocated or changed. And then once the changes are made, she's going to sync the model to the central cloud model and put a comment about the changes that she did. She will also send a note to the team so everyone knows what happened. All right, now we're switching to the tablet view, which is used by Hans, the principal architect. So he's the principal architect. He probably doesn't need to, if he needs to look at the model, why he should open a large model and, open Revit. So he can just install the BIM 360 Team app on his tablet and seeing all the projects or files available on BIM 360 Team, including this project. And this allows him to kind of look at the model and collaborate on the model if he has any comments or markup, even when he's not in the office and from anywhere. So this was the original markup he made on that room, that these rooms are small, and he sent to his team, to his architects, to change, to kind of do that change in the Revit model. So he can see a very light 3D view of that model without having to open Revit, and he can see all the sheets available in that Revit model, elevations, sections, different type of sheets, even the schedule. So you can choose to publish what kind of sheets you want to show up on BIM 360 Team site. So with that, I'm going to jump into the BIM 360 Team and kind of show you an overview of some of the features. All right, let me switch to my Chrome browser. All right, so right now I've logged into my BIM 360 Team. Actually, if you look at here, when you sign up for a BIM 360 Team, you get a company hub or you get your own URL. And then this is the main interface. You see a list of all your projects. Actually, there are different filters, are the projects that I'm part of, owned by me, or the projects that are shared with me because other people from other hubs or other BIM 360 Team sites could invite me. And also the projects that I actively work on, make them as a pinned projects. And also I see a brief activity of my team, what was uploaded, what activities was done, or also the comments that was done that we're gonna cover quickly. Also, if I click on my thumbnail on the top right corner, I could be part of different hubs. So that Keller Pacific hub happens to be my main hub, but for example, I was invited from Autodesk to another hub to collaborate on another project. So I could be invited to other companies or other firms' hubs as well. Now let's jump into this project, see what's inside that. So if you see, the interface is very simple to learn. It's not very complicated. Basically, here's my file structures, and I can create folders. I can upload files or folders. I can create, basically switch my view to thumbnail, and or in a list view, or at the right side I can see my project members, or I can see my project activities as well. And then we have of course, project calendar and discussions specific to that project, which allows participation of multiple people in that. And then we have wiki pages, which is kind of like a website of the project. And wiki pages, basically, it allows you to do a lot of formatting, as you can do in Microsoft Word, for example, or on a website. So it's like an internal website related to that project. For example, as an example, I just put this knowledge article from Autodesk to how to get models into collaboration for Revit, and I did bunch of formatting, highlighting, to just show the capabilities of that. And this model can be worked on and commented on by multiple team member to kind of complete the wiki page. Let me go back to my project. As you see, the navigation back and forth is very easy. And if you look at here, also you see the version numbers. So what that means is that basically it's a version control. So BIM 360 team keeps the history of the versions of the same file that are uploaded. And then also if you look at here, it's gonna truncate, but it says cloud Revit model. So what that means these Revit models are basically created from within Revit into the BIM 360 team. That means that's my central model. Oh, and of course, you can upload any different type of files over here. As I said, it's supports a lot of file formats. For example, I uploaded a PDF like in a spec folder, and that's again version control, and I can view that as well. And then I can go back. So I don't need to basically install any software. BIM 360 team is browser based, and it's very powerful. So let me browse into one of those Revit files to see what we have over here. So as you see at the top, it's a hierarchy of project, and then I can see the versions over here, all the versions that uploaded, time, and person who basically published the model. And then at the left I can see my views, and then I can see my sheets. Actually, this is a 3D view, and I can even go ahead and filter stuff based on the categories. And then I can see all the Revit sheets as well. So there's no need to keep printing to PDF like when you have hundreds of files in your Revit file, and that's a that takes a lot of time when you have, let's say, 100 files and you want to print them to PDF. It keeps your machine busy for a while. And then I can browse into any of these sheets available to me, sections. And then I have some tools over here. I have the measuring tool. I have markup tool. I'm going to show in a little bit how markup works, and then let me go back actually to the 3D view to show some of the features in the 3D view as well. So I have all sort of navigation tools that I have like a standard in all others application, like the popular view cube, which I can use to navigate around my model. And then over here, again, the navigation is a standard from within Revit, like with the mouse wheel and the shift key I can orbit. And then I can select any of these objects, and then here click on the properties, and it brings in all the Revit properties, so it understands your project data. And then in fact I can actually go and create a markup or a comment maybe on an object or on a point. So I can comment on an object. So I'm going to create a comment on that object, and click check size, just something to show you. And then I can also use @mentions to basically direct my comment directly to people who are under my project. For example, I can go ahead and select my colleague Garrett and post this comment, and it's gonna stay there. He's gonna get an instant email notification with a link to this location of the model. And then also at the side I see the history of all the comments and markups over here, and their version control. So for example, I did some comments on version 2, and then actually Garrett, for example, can go ahead and click reply and reply right to my comments from there, and then I will get a notification that Garrett replied to my comment. So that's a really powerful communication tool. It could be object by object, and of course we have markup tools as well, or sort of if I click on a markup, I can actually draw, I can put text, I can do all sort of, arrows and stuff. And then I can save. And then if I happen to, go somewhere else, orbit around the model, and then if I wanted to go back there, I can just go ahead, click on that. It will bring back the view in which I made that comment. So there's of course a version comparison tool over here, which I can select. For example, I want to compare version 9 to version 5. It's a very powerful. It shows you all the changes, or the objects that were added, the objects that were modified, or even the objects that were removed from the model, and it gives you a list of all those objects in a color-coded fashion. Also, I have the share button over here. I can choose to directly send a public link of my model. Also, I can allow them or disable their download. So basically, I can disable their download if they don't want them to download my model yet. They can just view that on a viewer and mark up on that. And I could even, for more security, set a password on that link and send them password separate. And then I can also email directly from here, or I can embed that link in my website if I need to have a online portfolio of one of my projects. And also another powerful tool is live reviews. Live review is as I mentioned before, it's like a live session where multiple people can orbit around the model, but it's all rendered in the browser on the BIM 360 team servers. So it's not as sluggish as you might have experience in doing other meeting applications. And then of course I can move, I can do all sort of file editing things. I can move my model, I can delete that, I can move it to a different folder, and then of course I can share it from here from the list view. So this is like the overview of BIM 360 team platforms. So the next I'm gonna cover some common questions that usually comes up when we talk about collaboration for Revit. So one question that still comes up, and I still think it's relevant for all of us today is the question around data security. I say the best place to go is the Autodesk Trust Center, and the URL address is autodesk.com/trust. There's a white hat team. There's a lot going on that Autodesk around security for cloud, because it's a big deal for Autodesk. So to take the risk of hosting your models, that's discussed here too, but Autodesk is responsible for them if you have uploaded them to Autodesk. There is a lot of work Autodesk is doing around that, and Autodesk is working with other partners like Amazon Web Services, which is hosting all the data to make sure that things are kept secure, and I think you'll find a lot of that information right here in this website. And then I get the question about file sharing and storage, and I want to kind of head off a few of those questions quickly. Hopefully it's clear to you that there is nothing wrong with Dropbox or Box or whatever, but they're not going to understand that, hey, this is a project and these are Revit models, and here's what we want to do with these Revit models, for example. That is simply beyond the scope of what they were designed to do. So we have a much better platform at a low cost and many cases free. And then we have the question around amount of storage. And in fact, in A360 team in the old days, we had 10 gigabyte of storage, which we really didn't enforce, but it was harder to hit than you think. Anyways, because long story short, all that stuff in collaboration for Revit was free to begin with, and when you would publish out a model to A360 team back in the day, it would replace the old model. The old model will still be there and archived, but it didn't go towards your quota anyways. So even with just 10 gigabyte of storage per user, it took a lot to hit that amount of storage per user for active projects only. And it counts only for active projects, and archive projects didn't count, and even archive versions didn't count. So unless you had a lot of point clouds getting there, there was TK actually, but now that's even more. That's now 500 gigabyte per user. So good luck filling that up. I've never heard any of my customers filling that up. And I mean, in case you're running out of storage on that, it would be very inexpensive to add additional, fake users to just get more storage. I suppose like you get half a terabyte for each user, and because it is all pooled, it's going to be added to the whole storage of your hub or your site. And then there is some confusion about A360 Drive, our old file storage solution, if you want to call it that now, but that still exists and has nothing to do with BIM 360 team, so that's just not relevant to this conversation. That is the storage that comes with your other product subscription or maintenance, and 25 gigabyte of storage for each user. I mean, first of all, I would like to address, when it comes to the pricing, I would like to address BIM 360 team, since that has been the focus of today. BIM 360 team is $10 a month per user if you buy it annually, or $15 a month if you just buy it straight up month to month. That's not expensive, and it allows you to do all these things we've been talking about here in terms of viewing markups, light review, project setup, and all of that stuff. You're not charging your and then for the collaboration, in fact, for the collaboration for Revit, if you have other companies having their own licenses or their own BIM 360 licenses, and you invite them as a viewer or editor to your project, it's not going to count towards your user count. So they're paying for themselves. You're not paying for them if they already have their own licenses. And then BIM 360 team, if you go with collaboration for Revit, that is bundled with BIM 360 team, because BIM 360 team is the platform, and that is $100 a month if you buy it month to month, or $800 a year, which comes out at $67 a month. But it gives you a lot for that money. So that's collaboration for Revit and BIM 360 team together. The ability to work from anywhere on connected Revit projects, no matter the size of your firm, host large projects. Essentially, it's like the beauty of Revit server without any of the mess that is setting up Revit server on that IT side, to make it possible to work across multiple locations and multiple domains. The value in that, I like to tell people, is the time savings. Now, there's a ton of IT expenses that it also saves you if you need to be able to collaborate, but that's a different argument. Let me just give you a really quick return on investment. If I'm paying this much per user per month, so let's say I'm buying it annually and I bill out at about $100 per hour. These are very round numbers, and I don't want to get into the maths too deeply, but the net is I'm really talking about 9.2 billable minutes per week of time that it costs me. If I'm saving more than 10 minutes a week, then I'm paying for collaboration for Revit just in the time I haven't been, just for the time that I haven't been wasting trying to upload and download my Revit models. Let's say for other consultants, for other disciplines, for coordination meetings, which happens every week at least once, it's gonna pay for itself if I just save 10 minutes per week. And it's just ignoring the cost of server equipment, ignoring all the other potential other costs for collaboration, and saying all you need to know is that if you save 10 minutes per user per week, you have more than paid for collaboration for Revit, and that's just basic math. I tell people, that if you really think about the time you spend uploading and downloading files with consultants, I guarantee in most cases it's going to be way more than 10 minutes per week. So as a reminder, this reinforces that I was saying, what I was saying a second ago. We have collaboration for Revit users in many cases because that's just an amazing solution, and it allows us to work from anywhere to anybody, but it's just running on top of BIM 360 Team, the platform that we have been talking about today. BIM 360 Team offers a lot of features on its own, so it would be a loss if those that are using collaboration for Revit to not take the advantage of what you already have in BIM 360 Team. Even if you're not a Revit user and you're just interested in being able to do a better job setting up projects and communication with others on your projects, or even if it's 3D AutoCAD files or even 2D flat files, to some degree BIM 360 Team may still be a good idea for you because that is a platform.